My signal. Unleash hell.
Atrás! 3 weeks from now, I will be harvesting my crops. Imagine where you will be, and it will be so. Hold the line! Stay with me! If you find yourself alone, riding in green fields with the sun on your face, do not be troubled. For you are in Elysium, and you're already dead! Brothers, what we do in life echoes in eternity.
Alright, welcome back to MMG. You guys remember that video? It was great. Alright, so I just listened to their press briefing. Trump, Mnuchin. So it's $4 trillion as of now. It's probably gonna change. Here's the Fed's balance sheet. I mean, currently it's at 4.668 trillion. That's gonna it's gonna double. Yeah, so you should watch the last couple of Peter Schiff videos. I mean, he especially the last one, he goes into details, the ramifications of all of this free money and the bailouts of everyone, essentially. Except for me, I'm not gonna get anything. You know what's funny? My life hasn't changed much at all. Like, I can still go to the park and everything. Actually, I can still drive around. I can do whatever I want. My life hasn't changed much besides wearing a mask. Anyways, so let's just talk about what's going on, what's been going on for the past few days. So, this drug, I do think it's gonna work. I mean, it's already worked in South Korea, and you know, the only people who will need it are the ones who are in critical care. So, and we could already see. I mean, this looks bad, but looks kind of creepy, doesn't it? We could already see that the U.S. is totally infected here. New York and Cali are going to be the big ones, and probably down in New Orleans and Chicago, you know, major cities. I mean, it's non-brainer, high dense populated areas. But New York's hit really, really hard. And that makes sense. I mean, should be expected. But the US numbers are 62,000 confirmed, and tests are ramping up. The US is actually doing more testing than anyone out there now. And this is going to go fairly quickly. Now, remember my one video where I said we hit peak panic or whatever? Pretty much was the peak panic. Because now, you know, everyone's calmed down. They're kind of like on a home vacation. And yes, there's going to be more and more people infected and more fatalities, but I think for the US at least, the nano zombie, right? That part of it is gonna peak out in the next few weeks. I am guessing, okay? But the panic, as in people panicking psychologically and the markets panicking, I think we're past that peak, right? Because obviously the market's bouncing, and we'll look at the charts. Also, in my last video, I literally said this is the bottom. well, intermediate bottom. I'm not saying the ultimate bottom. I'm just saying we're going to get a rebound. That big bull trap, remember? And it's yesterday it started and it's on its way. We finally had 2 straight days back to back of positive territory on the markets. So, but globally, this is going to be an issue for the next few years. I mean, this is going to keep going. Now, of course, there's going to be second wave, third wave, mutations. I mean, this is going to be, just get used to it. This is new normal. This thing's going to just be with us for many years now. And the global economy is going to suffer unless they do come out with some sort of cure, which they probably won't for at least till 2021. Now, globally, we're not even at 1% known infected, right? It's at 460,000. In a few days, it'll probably be a million. And now you could probably, I don't want to say 10x that number, but it's in the millions. It's way more than this, right? And it's just going to continue, especially on other continents, South America, Africa, India's, apparently they're doing so well is because they have had infections, and I don't want to say the word malaria, right? They've had similar type of issues for many years and generations of whatever, so they're a little more possibly a little more immune to this. Either way, this is gonna be with us for years. It's not gonna go away. Now, the question being is, when is the economy gonna open up? When is everyone gonna go back to work? Well, I don't know. I don't think they know, but I think in the US we will have to open up the economy no matter what. Because if they keep printing like this, I mean, you're going to end up like Venezuela. So, and we still might in the end. I believe if after Trump, if the US goes far left, then yeah, it'll end up like Venezuela. At that point, I mean, should be prepped, but you should be buying things that you're going to need for the foreseeable future. I would also consider maybe bugging out. I don't know, but that's pretty much it for now that I have on this. I don't want to talk too much about this anymore. I do think the drugs they're coming out with and everything is going to slow this down significantly. Everyone staying home is going to slow this down significantly, and then we're going to go back to work. But there's going to be social distancing. That's going to become the new norm. Like, no big events or anything like that. A lot of businesses that are very service sector heavy are not. They're either not going to open back up or they will, but then they're just going to go out of business. Like, that's just the fact of it. But we'll see how effective this lockdown is. They're talking about around Easter or April, right? Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't think that's enough time, right? Because you could have it for 2 weeks, and that's when you're infectious, right? And you're spreading it to other people. To be safe, I would do it for like a month. which would be somewhere late April in the US, and have everyone tested by then, by the, when they lift the lockdown. So if everyone is if they did do that, everyone tested, well, you don't even have to test everyone, because someone who gets this, right, and they show little or no symptoms, but they have it for like 3 to 4 weeks, then I believe, don't quote me on this because I'm not sure, they are no longer spreading it. But the people who do have symptoms, they all get tested, and then they'll find out. But then most of them are sent back home. And then you just sit for 3 to 4 weeks. Like, you can't do anything. And then eventually you don't spread it anymore. And I think in the next month or two, we'll get a good handle on it. At least in the US, eventually Europe as well. Italy is actually it's tapering down the spread and the amount of people getting sick and this and that. So it's not going to be the end of the world. All right. This apocalypse, people, even I was looking at, it's not over. All right. So it's not over. I'm just saying for now, for this summer. But, everyone was imagining Mad Max movies, and it's more likely you're in your pajamas and you're just at home, like chilling, watching Netflix and playing video games. So this isn't like nothing like that yet. The economy falling apart can bring that, though, mixed with maybe multiple waves of this, like mutations of the nano zombie and then multiple waves over the next, because the second wave for the last big pandemic, that's what really wiped out a lot of people. All right, so creepy, right? Let me zoom in on Europe. I just want to see. See, they're not testing as much as the U.S. now. That's how quick it happened. Because for the past few weeks, they have been making the tests. I feel like they lied about, and believe me, they lie all the time. They lied about, we messed up on the test. They probably didn't. They needed a little bit of time to make millions of them. Apparently, we have like 3 or 4 million test kits or whatever. Anyways, I think we hit peak panic, like psychological panic. Now, panic over the economy, we have not hit peak. Nowhere near it. On the market side, we did. Now remember, the stock market, equities markets, all of that is supposed to be separate from the real economy. No longer is it, but it's supposed to be. I'll talk about gold and silver. We'll look at the charts and stuff. So finally, we had huge moves in gold and silver and the mining stocks. I'll talk about that later. You should look into tonic water. It's a treatment for malaria. I really hope this video doesn't get hit. It's probably gonna get hit. Whatever. I posted everyone should be wearing masks by now. More and more people are probably going to end up wearing them. Even in the US now, it's becoming norm. I've already seen people wearing them, so I'm not. Maybe I started it in my local area, but I see cashiers now wearing, which is good. They should. They're more at risk than anyone. All right, so I put out these dates for record. Who said anything about... Okay, so this is hilarious. So FDIC announces that they have the heebie... so the insurance on your bank deposits, right? So after, I believe, the Great Depression, the government insured banks. and insure your deposits up to, I believe, 250,000, or is it 150,000? I forgot. It's like there's a little plaque at every ATM, or it's on the window. There's like a sticker at every ATM when you go to a bank. It's funny. And this is the problem, right? I posted in the newsroom. This is what causes real bank failures and too big to fails, and you have to bail out the banking system. For one, there's not enough competition, and everyone just signs up to a bank, and they don't care what bank they sign up to. Usually, they just sign up to the biggest bank because it's more convenient, because you could get to an ATM, fairly anywhere in the nation. And what does that do? It centralizes and monopolizes, and then when that bank holds the bag on all the defaulting loans in the country during recessions, then they have to be bailed out, because if they're not, then it's Mad Max, because the supply chain, everything breaks because money's not moving anymore. Currency, like current isn't moving through the economy, keeping everything lubricated and working. All right, like oil in the car engine. So, back in the day when the U.S. was truly rich, 1800s, early 1900s, there was tens of thousands of banks. Every local area had their own little bank. They're like little small businesses. That's a healthy way of having a financial and banking sector for a country. It's not having 5 major banks, and they, of course, consolidated even more after 2008, because the smaller ones didn't get bailouts, they just failed, but the big ones did, because they literally can't let them. So there's your collateral damage. So I'll talk about this. There's an article, the CME and margin on the COMEX. Their paper games are breaking. So they're floating out $6 trillion in total this first huge round of it, after they passed the bill this afternoon supposedly. But they're already talking about 10 trillion, which will be rolled out later this summer probably, if this doesn't work to keep the economy humming. Which, it all depends on how long is everyone going to be locked down. Major cities, I guarantee you, New York City and LA and some of the other big ones, they're going to be locked down much longer. Like probably a few weeks to even a month longer than the rest of the nation. We'll see. It all depends on your personal state, how they how quick they responded and how strict they were in the beginning. But it's population density. So, okay, this talk about them rolling out a digital currency because they wanted to put it in the bill. Listen, my opinion is, they're gonna try it. Of course they are, because they want to trap you in the system where you get eaten away slowly by inflation. The funny thing is, are people gonna trust it after their last fiat currency was devalued? No. And they're not going to trust it. People aren't going to trust it. They're not going to go along with it willingly. If anything, it might actually make inflation increase, because people would rather just buy things than hold their new digital worthless vaporware, right? So, after everyone loses their life savings from the dollar being devalued, debased, to bail everything out, why would you trust some even more digital phantom 1s and 0 money, right? Now, I'm not saying that has anything to do with the privatized cryptos, but yeah, maybe I'll look at a chart of Bitcoin. That's funny. Yeah, everyone's gonna try to. So celebrities, focus groups, cults, uh, everyone and anyone with an agenda, to tell you how to live and think, is going to use this for their own agenda, right? To push it. So this is the biggest thing to worry about. It's food. Now the U.S. has plenty of food. It does. And the supply chain is just on time. A lot of it does come from foreign nations. The farmers, remember, in the past few months, they have been really struggling in the U.S. Really struggling. Honestly, this nano zombie, the way it originated, the timing of it. So even the location of where it started, right in the middle of China, right? Right before the biggest holiday in the world, because of the population of China, 1.4 billion people, right before it started spreading, right? And it's the biggest migration of people within the country. It's like, I don't want to wear the tinfoil hat. And it's not even tinfoil hat stuff. This is pretty much, it's been proven, and for one, it's man-made. For two, the timing of it is just so perfect. I am the more of belief that, yes, it was China, and they purposely did it, along with the elite. The elite, you have to understand, are global. They have no, they don't care about any certain country, even the one they came from or whatever. All right. So that's my belief on all of this. I do not think the current administration, I don't think Trump, I don't think they knew about this. If anything, it's to help remove him. Now, where was I going with this? The timing of it with the market. Literally, I was calling the all-time high towards the end of 2019, and at the very first month of 2020, I was saying this is it, guys. This is the all-time high, and I've been patiently waiting, and that was due to technicals, fundamentals, revenue, earnings for corporations, the amount of debt, everything. Just the cycle, the super cycle, the surmounting debt. It was all coming to head at the beginning of 2020. And then this happens. Great cover-up, so the elite don't get blamed. Although this does sort of destroy globalization. Like world economy, it pretty much destroys it. Although it's probably going to bounce back somewhat. But I feel that countries are going to become more self-reliant. Well, they will try. Of course, you have to do things to be able to do that. One is lower taxes and deregulate, which Trump will do. He already is saying that during his briefings, and he was saying that before all of this. So Trump is still the best thing for the U.S., even after printing trillions. And I'm gonna explain why. All right. So the world's rich are struggling to get their hands on physical metals. Very bullish for gold. All right. So let's go through some things. So there's already massive stores closing and going out of business who just didn't have enough saved money for. Most businesses, when they operate, for like the first 3 to 5 years, they don't even make money. And if anything happens that causes them to shut doors for weeks or months, and then it's not like business is going to just start booming as soon as this is over. It's not. They're already closing doors. And even with the bailouts, the small businesses, that money's probably not going to be enough for them to weather this, the storm. So Italy's sort of over the hump. Pompeo denounces China disinformation campaign, which they did do. They're blaming the U.S. now and foreigners on all of this. That before G7. Robobank, Trump being cautious, optimists are just careless. I think Trump is more afraid of the economy imploding, because that will, in the long run, cause way more life. More life will be lost. Listen, the economy is going to do that anyways, but if you do it in slow motion, and they're trying to end up like Japan. The U.S.'s best case scenario is to end up like Japan, with them in charge. The best case scenario for humanity is Mad Max, and then right after that, you just go back to like pure freedom and liberty and entrepreneurship. It's too early to tell how this is going to unfold, to be honest, in my opinion. So, Peter Schiff talked about how it works when they print trillions and literally buy bonds, corporate bonds, mortgages, U.S. treasuries. I mean, they make it out of thin air, and then they buy everything, all the debt, everyone's bags. They just buy everyone's bags. Now, the hazard, the unintended consequences of this is people go, oh, great. I mean, I need to sell this now while they are buying up everyone's worthless debt. And it might actually make the problem worse. What's insane is the mortgages, right? The central bank is going to own everyone's mortgage. Technically, the central bank can end up owning like most of everything. But in order to do that, they have to sacrifice the dollar. And for one, that is communism. Even though they say it's a private entity. And if it's a private entity, that means whoever owns the central bank is pretty much taking ownership of businesses, corporations, people's homes, even governments, because they own all the government debt. So they could become like some sort of, theoretically, I'm saying, they could become some sort of like superpower. Remember, nobody ever has talked about this, but the IMF, the central bank of the central banks, actually is like the fifth in line and has the most gold. Like fifth. Like the Federal Reserve supposedly, and then, the bank, China, what is it? England's bank or central bank, the ECB, all these central banks, right? They hold a ton of gold and they've been buying for years. But like number fifth or something like that is the world central bank. Just stuff I'm throwing out there that nobody talks about, and is there a plot to take over the world? I don't know. I don't think it would work anyways. People just wouldn't go along with it. But anyways. So the global economy, no, it's not going to bounce back. We're going to go into a very long, prolonged depression in the end. Now, for the next, 6 to 18 months, something like that, it's just going to be a recession-like thing. But the long term, it's going to be a global depression for like probably a while. Every state's like, you're not giving us enough, and it's typical. China's already lifting their lockdown, but remember, they have been locked down for about 3 months now. So that gives you a good idea of what the rest of the world needs to do. Yes, the rest of the world may not have to do 3 months because we have more information, we have more ways to treat this, and listen, guys, we're not seeing people dropping in the streets in the U.S. People aren't just walking and dropping. We never saw that. I thought we would see that, but we didn't. So, U.S. airline traffic is only at 10%. Guys, there's still plenty of shorting opportunities coming, just like we've had in the past few weeks and months. So FDIC urges Americans to keep their money in banks. Who said anything about the bank? We're worried about the banks going under. Remember when Mnuchin said, "Nobody worry, the banks are fine." Everyone looks at each other. No one said anything. All right. By the way, the FDIC, they have no magic fund to bail everyone out. What will happen is the Fed will just print the money again, and then they just that's why they're bailing out the banks. All right, but that's hilarious. All right. And I guarantee you, you know what's funny though? Most Americans don't even have savings in the bank. And they probably just, if they did, and it was a small amount, they probably just spent it on food and toilet paper, so. The jobless claims are it's probably over 20 million now, going towards 30. It's already, over 1% of the total population in the U.S. I mean, it's just going to it's going to be unbelievable. A lot of people aren't going to get back to work. The automotive sector, they will be suffering. A couple of these were on our shorting list that I put out weeks and weeks ago. I was talking about it. When the market falls, these automotive companies will be great shorting opportunities. So the ECB is also just helicopter money. The whole world will be doing helicopter money. The question is, how long can they do that? And who's going... And here's the thing. As long as the world's doing it, the U.S. is going to be able to do it even more. But if Europe and the rest of the world stop doing money printing and helicopter drops, or C-130 drops of cash, pallets just... they're dropping pallets of cash out of C-130 planes. If the rest of the world stops, that's when the U.S. is in deep, deep trouble. Because that's when the bond market really spikes no matter what. And then the Fed is officially out of bullets. And then the DXY really starts crashing. But it's probably going to go down anyways. So, but if the whole world's doing it all at once, I mean, fine, great. Gold and silver is going to go literally to the moon. Yeah, so they're warning about lifting lockdowns too early. It's a balancing act. You can't do the lockdown for too long because the economy won't survive. So at some point, you have to let everyone go back to work who still have jobs. So it's a fine balancing act. We'll see. I mean, honestly, guys, if everyone just wears masks, PPEs, and the elderly stay home, just stay home, it'll be probably fine. I mean, it's still, a lot of people are still gonna get this, and there'll be fatalities, but I mean, you're eventually gonna get this anyways. It is what it is. And people screaming that the economy shouldn't come first. We'll see what they say later on when people are fighting over food. And how are the elderly gonna survive there's no food. I'm just, it is a balancing act, and they know that. They have models, they have think tanks, and I think Trump administration, I know they're being criticized on everything, but it's a balancing act. You can't just shut down the economy for like 3 to 4 or 6 months. It's just, then there is nothing left afterwards, and then more will perish, I believe. Also, everyone's complaining that they're bailing everyone out. Okay, I agree that you shouldn't be bailing out these corporations. Bailing out small businesses, sending out some checks, I guess, you spend the dollars while they're still worth something. That's how I think Trump sees it, and I would probably do the same. Hey, it's going to zero either way. So let's spend it while it's worth something. Of course, this makes it quicker. The inflation, the hyperinflation, it'll make it quicker. They probably have a contingency plan where they will peg the dollar back to gold once the dust has settled from the economy crashing and this nano zombie, right? That's probably what their plan is. That's what I would do. But in the meantime, while the dollar's still strong, because everyone's going into dollars all around the world and everyone else is also doing helicopter drops, if you do have a secret gold hoard as a country, then yeah, why the hell not? Spend that cash. Just keep printing. Like, just do it as long as print as much as humanly possible while it's still worth something. Get every company and person still keep the gears moving, right? And then once the currency does start collapsing, then you come out and say, all right, everything's gonna be all right. A lot of people are gonna default, a lot of companies. We're gonna have to cut a lot of jobs, especially government jobs, and lower taxes and peg it back to gold. And we're gonna fix our trade. And in the meantime, while you are printing the trillions, you start retooling and reindustrializing your country. That's what I think he has planned, especially next year. And then if he could pull it off, Trump, then it won't be that bad. If anything, good will come out of this. So we'll de-globalize and become more industrialized. And we did it on the backs of every idiot who took our dollars, gave us things. And I mean, that's what I would do. Because there's no other choice. I mean, you can't just if you let bonds rise and interest rates rise, you're going to have the worst Great Depression ever, which is good for the poor because prices of everything falls, but no one's going to have jobs. So, I mean, we're living in very interesting times. Very interesting. There's also talks of live wars happening between China and U.S. Not yet. That probably won't come till later. This is pretty wild, guys. What's going on? We are living in this is going to be in history books for the rest of our lives. People are going to write about this. Keep a journal if you live in a densely populated area and you see stuff, and if you're a healthcare worker, keep a journal. Record this stuff because this is going to go down in history. Traders puke after Bernie Sanders threatens to hold up the package, which unbelievable. Because he wants to throw in some hardcore anti-free market, anti-corporation, and probably very, welfare for everyone. Even though Trump has pretty much given that to everyone. Alright. Gold market breaking down. Gold spreads explode as LBMA warns of liquidity problems. Listen, guys, all it takes is a multi-billionaire or a sovereign wealth fund or a country or very large hedge fund to put a bid in on the futures market, let that contract expire on the futures, and actually want delivery of the physical stuff. That's pretty much like the cornering of the silver market back in the 80s with the Hunt brothers, except they bought up the physical prior hand. But honestly, if the mining stocks like go on the futures market to hedge their positions and they ask for delivery, like they let the contracts expire. And that means whoever's short has to come up with the physical stuff. And the funny thing is these exchanges do not have it. And what will happen if that happens? Well, futures go limit up for days and weeks and months. And we become retired, essentially. And believe me, mining stocks will go up as well, because if you can't get your hands on physical, but you want exposure to metals, what else left is there to buy besides futures? And you can't even buy futures, right? Because it goes limit up. So you can't buy more. So the only thing left is to buy mining stocks. And that's when we see those moonshots, like hundreds of percent in a week. That's when that life-changing money happens. And there's so many trillions just sloshing around in worthless bonds, the equity markets are still overvalued right now. And there's a lot of people right now just sitting on massive amounts of cash in their brokerage account. So there, all of a sudden, this is what I'm banking on, guys. All right. The COMEX breaks down. So the paper manipulation of the gold and silver breaks down. Futures go limit up. People can't buy any physical because there's shortages of it. Because for the past few weeks, maybe some of the larger mining companies have to take a break, and they're also on lockdown or whatever. So they don't mine for a couple weeks. Massive shortage globally. No one can get their hands on physical. So everyone starts buying the futures. You get a huge short squeeze. Some people actually want the physical besides futures, and they let their contracts expire. Then the LBMA can't make good on the physical delivery. Then futures markets break. They go limit up for days, weeks, maybe months. And then you can't get your hands on the physical stuff. You can't even get your hands on a futures contracts. And you can't even put options on it. What's left? Mining stocks. And then the mining stocks open back up, or the mining companies open back up, and you're going to see moves like you've never seen in history before. Not just that. These mining companies next quarter are going to have the best quarterly results out of everything else out there, pretty much, in the entire stock, in all the indices and markets. So that's going to cause the biggest wealth transfer ever. Not just that. I mean, why would you hold bonds when they're printing this much money? So the only safe haven is metals. It's gonna be wild. I really think this year a lot of our lives are gonna change. Well, at least the people in the private group, right? And some other people listen to me who are probably, So I'm pumped. All right, let's look at the charts. This video is probably 44 minutes. All right, so last few videos, right? A few days ago, last Friday, I said this will be your bull trap, and I had the 9 buy signal on the. This is the 3-day chart. And I'm expecting this, right? God. Hold on. Something like this. And this will be where everyone thinks return to normal. Probably later this summer, people are going to think, oh, it's return to normal. Especially once the nano zombie really slows down. Everyone's been tested. And, the numbers are dropping, they're no longer rising. And then everyone thinks, oh, great, the economy is going to be booming again, return to normal. But that'll be your giant bull trap. Because eventually the dollar... So once everyone starts thinking it's returned to normal and they start spending money again, then all of this cash they just printed, the $6 trillion, probably going to be $10 trillion in the next few weeks and months, that's when the currency starts being currency again, meaning starts flowing through the economy again. And then all of a sudden, you're going to start seeing some crazy inflation pop up. And then the equity markets, once this bull trap is over, a lot of that currency is going to come out of the equity markets again, and down she'll go. Unless they just keep printing, and then we end up like Venezuela with the stock market hitting new all-time highs, but the currency being, like, literally, noticeably, your currency will be losing like 5% every, like, month or something like that in value in the US, something like that. I don't know. All right, so let's zoom out. Let's do a monthly. So this is the S&P 500 monthly chart. Look at that, guys. Beautiful. I called it, didn't I? I called it to the day almost. 9 sell on the S&P 500. And I told you guys this is it. Look what happened. All right. And I want to take credit for it because no one else can. No one called it this close timing-wise. Oh, and the CNBC anchors are on Twitter. Nobody saw this coming. No one could have guessed. I did. Matter of fact, I was the first person to say that this nano zombie was gonna be the Black Swan event. I was the very first person publicly to say it that I know of. If you could find someone else, I'd be amazed. All right. So I'm looking at something like this. Of course, if it does do this, right? The S&P could go back to, it did fall all the way down to 2188 for the S&P 500. But I expect this sucker to go back down to like 1100. And if at that point they decide to, and listen, if the left takes control, it's going to, like, who knows? Like, but let's say they decide to just keep printing to keep the markets artificially elevated and they sacrifice the dollar completely, then you might see something like this. And it just makes new highs and goes straight up for a while. But again, if you go to sell your stocks, they're still worth less, even though they're going up in dollar terms, because the dollar's worth so much less. Like if the dollar loses 90% of its value and your stock goes up 100%, you still lost money. I talked about that in the last video. All right, let's look at some other charts now. Look at gold and silver. Here's your major FANGs and corporations in the U.S. They used to be trillion-dollar market cap companies. They're, they had a nice correction, but nothing too serious, to be honest. Nothing too crazy. At least a 20% drop, but... So the shorting opportunities are still there. Just not right now. I wouldn't short right now. I'm not shorting right now. I'm just long metals, personally. Not financial advice. Consult your licensed financial advisor before doing anything. Equities, stocks, everything extremely volatile, extremely risky. Do not invest in anything you're not willing to lose or lose sleep over. And by the way, they're really volatile right now. Like, I'm not even using stops. I'm not even hedging. Zero hedge, guys, when it comes to metals. because you're going to get, when the market gets real choppy and volatile, your stops are just going to get ran, but in both directions. You're just going to lose all your money, in my opinion. Consult your licensed financial advisor. All right. But this is, I'm talking to traders, professional trader. All right. NASDAQ E-mini 100 hit the 200-week moving average perfectly. It's beautiful. The S&P hit my blue equilibrium line perfectly. The FANG index, it overshot the 200-week moving average, but shot straight back above it. Now, believe me, when they do these stimulus things and the Fed intervenes into the market and pretty much nationalizes the free market and turns it into a Soviet Union, they time things with TA. I guarantee you they have some good TA experts, or maybe they'll call, big banks or hedge funds with like entire floors of traders, and it always comes together perfectly with TA. That's why TA also works on a macro scale. And it's fairly easy. The Dow, again, just like the FANG index, fell below on these are weekly charts, fell below the 200-week moving average. It even fell below my blue equilibrium line, and right now it's testing it. It did shoot above it for a second. So you could have gone long on equities, and I put it on the private group. Hey, we're going to get a huge rebound, bounce. Matter of fact, my last video, I told you guys that we're going to get a nice bull trap, some sort of major bounce or possible rebound. And you could have gone long and made a lot already in the past 2 days. Russell 2000, it's actually the weakest out of all of these, which is the domestic smaller cap mid-sized companies for the US, which is actually it's like the canary in the coal mine. It's like it's telling you that the US economy really isn't that strong, which makes sense because it's mainly service sector jobs. And I need to talk about that. That's what scares me the most. I'll talk about that right after my TA, which is important. Don't miss it. If your attention span's too short, just unsubscribe and stop watching me. All right. Vanguard International. I mean, it looks like the rest. All right. Let's talk about the dollar. I think this is the most important thing right now, the dollar, when it comes to metals. Now, gold and silver, well, not silver, but gold internationally is at record-breaking all-time highs. And Americans need to get that through their head. If you haven't been investing in metals and you're American, you have it really good right now because you can still get metals at a good price, and mining stocks especially because they were hit really hard just a few weeks ago from the markets crashing. I mean, this is the wealth transfer opportunity because your dollars are still strong compared to the rest of the world's fiat currencies, so you could accumulate more metals than foreigners. And when gold hits new all-time highs, and it will, your dollar, that's when it's going to start falling, and you're going to miss the boat. So there's a giant cup and handle, right? And it did spike a little bit, but I'm still on the fence if this is going to go to like 109 or the 110 handle, right? Or maybe the dollar is going to weaken like now, and this is the beginning of it. Because, let's face it, they just printed $6 trillion. Guys, that's like, it's an enormous amount of money. You can't fathom it. That's how much it is. The U.S. economy year over year is only like 20 trillion, to put into perspective. Now, on the daily, it did hit a 9 sell, the dollar, and now it's falling. Let's go to the weekly. The weekly's on the 2 count. Candle's yellow. It's one of my indicators telling me to sell. Or it's overextended. But, you know, it could do that for a while. Like back here, right? If you back test it. So it's kind of tricky with the dollar right now. I think, you know what? I think it's like a 70% chance that the top is in for the dollar. And this is it. Now it's only going to go back down. So I give it like a 70% chance. 30% chance it goes a little higher to test the 108, 109, 110 handle. I do not believe it's ever going to go higher than that, though. I think this is it, the ultimate top. Unless we just did hit the top. And this is kind of like a giant cup and handle, but a fake out maybe. We'll see. It's difficult. Because remember, the rest of the world is also doing infinity QE infinity. FANG index. There's probably a little more upside to this, especially this, because this is what they like to buy to get the markets going back up. So, possible trade opportunity. Russell 2000, that is weird. It's on 9 sell in the daily. You might be able to ignore that though. Alright. Let's go back to Russell real quick. I still believe now the Russell this is going to be an early indicator of when this bull trap or this rebound, when it's going to come to an end. It's whenever the Russell stops rising and then pulls back. And they'll do it prior to the rest of the indices, and that'll give you an early heads up. Now, I'm curious to see how high it does go. It'll either go back to the 38.2 fib retracement or the 23.6, but I don't think any higher than that. I think it's only going to go to the 38.2, maybe a little higher, and then sell off again. Financials just absolutely destroyed. Here's the Dow Transports. It's also bouncing with everything else. And this is, again, from what they're passing right now tonight in the Senate. The giant stimulus package, right? The $4 trillion and then $6 trillion, whatever. Lost count. Here's mining ETFs. Some of them had V bottom reversals already, or they're in the process of doing it. So beautiful. These mining ETFs are recovering very quickly now. So I believe the correction is over. Like the 2008 correction in mining stocks and ETFs and gold and silver, I believe it's over. Back then, that correction was like over 30%. This one was around 11%. Nothing. It's just a pullback compared to the last correction in 2008 when everyone was getting margin calls. So that's a sign of enormous strength. And it means we're gonna have a wild 2020. Like, it's gonna be awesome. If you're holding mining stocks and physical, but there's way more life-changing money to be made. Mining stocks. Alright, so check this out. This is gold, weekly chart. Perfect buying opportunity. I called it. 3-day chart. Look at this. Beautiful. This is a V-bottom reversal. Like textbook. Let's go to a daily chart. Look at that. So, will this correct further down? Maybe a little bit. It might revisit, I think 1600 will hold for sure. There's no reason for it to pull back. It's just that people think it's returned to normal, and and the speculators will sell gold because they don't understand economics and fundamentals. But, because there's no physical supply left, and they just, the world's printing money like it's going out of style. Gold right now should be at 5,000, if not more. It's only because of the futures market and because Wall Street full of idiots. So I don't know. I'm buying every opportunity I can until I run out of cash. I might even go sell some physical to get some cash to buy more mining stocks. So 1,600. You know, I have another business as well, so I do have cash income, coming in every month. Yeah, I mean, this is a 4 count. So the 4 and the 5 count out of a 9 count to the upside tend to be weaker, meaning there's a little dip. So, but as long as the 3 count was above the 2 count, it's bullish, and it's more likely we're going to get a 9 count to the upside on this daily chart of gold. So maybe sideways trading tomorrow, and then it's going to go back up, and we're going to start making new highs. And I do believe in the next few weeks and months, we're going to take out 2,000 and go much higher. Silver also rebounding very nicely. Damn it, I went over an hour. Now nobody's going to watch this video. An hour? Alright. Yeah, silver's rebounding. I told you guys, go buy it some rounds because it was $11. You'll never see that ever again in your life. Alright. So my blue equilibrium line, it's still going to get crossed by the 200-week moving average, and it's going to do it right as the price crosses back above my blue line, which will be around 1680. So once the price gets above 1680, there's probably no stopping silver from just rallying and rallying and rallying. What's this? The gold silver ratio, if finally, I think it might have peaked out. This is a weekly chart. So when the gold silver ratio peaks out, silver starts catching up that ratio with gold, and that kicks off the giant bull market in gold and silver, just like it did the last couple times gold and silver went into a bull market. So this is it, guys. This is the big opportunity. Go to my website if you haven't. I believe it's $220, and then $10 a month to be in the private group. You get like a 300-page research report. It's a little outdated, but still good. What else? And then the private group, right? You could I share my trades with you guys. We do way more research. So the 300-page report, that's probably the same size as all the additions and the updates and the new research we've done. Great community, and we also do other trades. I do other trades. I had some awesome shorts during this market crash, and it was they were very profitable. All right. So until next time, guys.